there? Yes. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. All right.
Hello. Your Excellency, I think that you will allow me to introduce you to this audience before beginning our conversation. This will be basically an open conversation between you and your student and probably some of my colleagues. So keep it short. It will be short. It's a very short introduction. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is, all of you know, a Liberian politician, but also a trained economist. She has been president of Liberia from 2006 to 2018. All of you know she was the first woman to be elected head of a state of an African country. And she also received the 2011 Nobel Peace Prize with two other persons for her effort to feature women's rights. After obtaining a master's degree in 1971 in public administration from Harvard University, Johnson Sirleaf entered government service in Liberia. She served as an assistant minister of finance from 1972 to 1973 under President William Tolbert, and as a minister of finance from 1980 to 1986 under Samuel Doe military government. During those regimes, she was imprisoned twice and narrowly avoided execution. In the 1985 national election, she campaigned for a seat in the Senate and openly criticized the military government, which led to her arrest and a 10-year prison sentence. She was released after a short time and allowed to leave the country. During 12 years of exile in Kenya and the United States, during which time Liberia collapsed into a civil war, Johnson Sirleaf became an influential economist for the World Bank, for Citibank, and other international financial institutions. From 1992 to 1997, she was the director of the Regional Bureau for Africa of the UNDP. And in this context, I'm sure that she does not remember. I met her in Dakar because I was working for Codestria when she came to visit Codestria. And her chief of staff is one of my best friends, Alim Saab. So you just note this personal connection to her. In 1997, Johnson Sirleaf ran for president of Liberia, representing the Unity Party, UP. She finished second to Charles Taylor and was forced back again into exile when his government charged her with treason. By 1999, Liberia's civil war had resumed. After Taylor went to exile in 2003, Johnson Sirleaf returned to Liberia to chair the Commission on Good Governance, which oversaw preparation for democratic election. In 2005, she ran again for president, won, and served as Liberia president for 2 terms until 2018. Please join me to welcome Her Excellency.
Okay, let's go.
And as I say, this is basically a conversation with our students. The questions I'm going to ask you are the questions prepared by the Africa Development Group. And it's divided into many rubrics: personal, about healthcare, about women, but also political question. And the first question is about strategic goals. What do you think should be the strategic goals in Africa today to face the many issues the continent is facing?
Very clear, I think, that we'd like to see Africa industrialize, and that means value addition, departing from the usual thing about providing primary commodities and exporting those to be manufactured elsewhere. Of course, there are constraints to be able to achieve that goal: infrastructure constraints, capacity constraints, technological constraints. But I think the strategy on that is to ensure that we overcome those constraints, and many of our countries are doing just that, to industrialize, because that's the only way we can get the jobs. Today our populations are young, and part of that strategy is to ensure that we create the conditions through education and jobs to enable them to make major contribution to the development of the country. It's hard to say that, because you also have to do good governance, democracy, free societies, all those part of a big agenda. But if you were to capsule it into one thing, I would think Africa is moving toward industrialization.
Do you think that the importance of the youth in Africa is an asset or a hindrance today? Because you just mentioned the importance of addressing such an issue.
No doubt. I believe 65% of the youth in Africa are 25 years and younger. And until we can put that democratic dividend to good use so that they become part of the structures and organizations for rebuilding the continent and developing it at even higher levels, if we get our young people who do not get the jobs and do not get the education, and they can become a destabilizing force, not only exiting the country and we losing the value of their education, but also we could see them protesting the status quo and creating tensions in society unless they feel that they've been fully included. Even now, we're talking about making sure that they become part of the leadership structure. I'm sure you've heard about what recently happened in Nigeria. The campaign they had, not too young to run, and as a result of that, they've been able to bring down the age level for participating in the Senate and the House of Representatives and whatnot. So the young, like all of you here, you know, right now I demanding participation, demanding change, demanding that they be a part of the processes of development. So the young is, right now, I think that's the future. And I think it's not only Africa. Look around, the population of youth throughout the world. In our case, they're growing faster because our population rate is high. And so as a result, we're getting young people coming on stream requiring health services, education services. And as much as our GDP grows, we're not able to absorb them all because of the population rate. Is ahead of us in many of our countries, and that undermines their own income.
This is, I think, an easier question. What was the easiest part about being the first female African head of state?
The easier part, babe, was just being. No, I think the easiest part was that you went through the ritual of being president, right? There's nothing easy about it, except to get dressed.
Usually I suppose that president has people who are helping them get dressed.
That too.
A kind of follow-up question is about what did it mean for you being such a high-profile leader as a woman, both within Liberia and outside, like the African Union. But you and I think you knew better because you have worked at least there for almost 5 years, I think.
No, I hope that I serve as an inspiration, a motivation to women, to young women who can aspire to achieve their dreams and to set their goals and to stay focused toward the achievement of those goals. And I hope that my life story and what I've been able to achieve with a certain amount of difficulties, some of which you've pointed out, can provide them with the courage to be able to pursue their goals and their dreams and to be able to set their sights as high as possible and be willing and determined and focused to be able to achieve it. So that's what I'm hoping that wherever I come in this room, I hope when I leave this room, there'll be one person in here who will say, I feel motivated, by the discussion I had or by our life, that I'm going to say I want to become whatever it is, whether it's president or a member of Congress or member of parliament, or whether he's the best scientist in the world or pilot or whatever it is, that you're going to say, I want to be that and I'm going to stay the course. And I'm going to stay focused because I think I can achieve it. If I really want to do it, I'm prepared to take the risks that go toward that achievement.
How do you go through the process of deciding to run for president in such a complicated country that as Liberia, which went through 2 cycles of civil war?
Well, I ran for a lower position first, and that landed me in prison. I was running first. I was trying to be a vice presidential candidate. I was not selected because I was not favored by the government. And then my party carried me to be a senator. And I won that one and refused to serve because I felt that the election was fraudulent. And so I went into exile again, but when I came back, I ran for president, as you pointed out, in 1997. I lost. I knew I was going to lose because I knew that the competitor was not someone who was going to lose or be allowed to lose. And so how did I decide? And each time is to make up your mind that this is something you're going to do, and be prepared to lose. But if you lose, that provides you with the strength and courage to be stronger in setting your goals and stronger in pursuing what you want to be. You've got to have the fire in your belly, right? If you want it, you got to go for it. There's no two way about it.
I'm sure you noticed that I asked that question to my follow-up question, which is, what has been the best part of being president?
No, I think being able to go out in the countryside and meet young children, to have those young children stand on the road so that you can stop by, greet them, maybe give them some candy and biscuits and whatnot, and to see the joy on their faces. Some of them may have never seen some of the things you would hand to them when you go into a countryside, the joy that fills your heart or something like that. As a mother, perhaps, not only as president, that I think that's the most thing that really pleases you. They're the big things that he can always say, I love to go out, I love to get all the acclamation, I love to get all the attention as president and all of that. But the most joyful one are the little ones who have lived under conditions where they ran away when a president vehicle approached because they're not accustomed to that. And to see the difference for them, I think was my greatest happiness.
Did you have time to read books? And if you had time, which books did you read?
Some, and I really like those of telling their stories. So I like to read sort of past leaders and what they do. Do I have time to do it? A little bit on the plane. A few chapters on the plane. I just read this beautiful, this book, She Would Be King. Nobody knows about it. You should, a Liberian here? Written by Liberian. You saw it? Anyway, that was a book about the culture, the history of Liberia. I think it was played up in the Washington Post. And where she puts it, in the setting of trying to demonstrate what happens, the culture of the country, but then it's mystical as well as realistic. So a book like that I like to read, and autobiographies, of people, and sometimes some daring ones like Fear. I'm sure you know about that one.
Was art an important aspect for you? Art.
I like the local artists at home do nice pictures about the villages and and about something in village life, people going for the water and all of that. I'm sorry I can't please you by telling you I like all of those fancy ones.
I think it's a question more about, the Liberian art than what you call the fancy.
Well, the real artists of the world, we know that. The one where you go to Sotheby's and you buy a piece of art for $1 million and $5 million, that's, I can't tell you that attracts me. Yeah. But they have their place, but I like some of ours. Ghanaians have great artists, those from Ghana, Nigeria, we've seen.
Can you cite one event which played a critical role in your decision to enter into politics?
One event.
Yeah, just one.
When I was put in jail. Isn't that a great motivating factor?
Because you were already in the political arena before.
Yes.
So, but you did not approach it as much more.
That strengthened my conviction.
Okay. Can you cite one woman which motivated you? One inspiration?
We've got one in our own history in Liberia, someone who was a jurist, someone who's the first African woman to be the president of the UN General Assembly. Angie Brooks Randall's in the history records her, so that's one. And if you're looking for somebody else at far field, then you have to see Winnie Mandela and her courage and how that courage passed on,
How did you interact with other African presidents, bearing in mind that you were the only woman among almost, there were 50 of them, or 52 of them.
Didn't make a difference to me as a person. Participating like any of them. So, I mean, I was, yes, you may say lonely, because I didn't have another woman president who I could huddle with, you know, like the men would huddle. But aside from that, I think just to measure up and be a part of whatever the program, the policy formulation, the discussion, the consultations, the diplomatic representation, and all that goes with being president.
I'm sure that you see what is behind asking such a question. It's our own representation of African head of states and the way they usually behave within their own country and on the continent. And
How do they behave? You have problems with I mean, if you're talking about, you know, the manner in which, you know, presidents have a certain amount of arrogance and, you know, whatnot, I guess it comes with the territory. But the differences, you know, depending upon how comfortable presidents are with their people, you know, how they manage their own lifestyles. I mean, some are highfalutin, some are very much down to earth. And it depends upon the personality of the person, the environment in which they're operating, and their own vision about, you know, what it is about being a leader. And it differs from person to person. Whether you're in this country or any other country, not just Africa.
I think you're absolutely right. When the experience you are having here is quite showing that Africa is not so specific. So this is an important. So my last question before giving the floor to the audience is, what do you see as promising replicable governance models currently operating across the African continent?
Africa is rising. You look at the number of countries that have democratized, compared with where it was under military rule in the 1960s and 1970s, and look at it today. Look at the many countries that have made more than 2 or 3 peaceful transfer of power. We can name them, you know. Whether it's Ghana, whether it's Nigeria, whether it's Senegal, it's Kenya. The record is there. When it comes to GDP, Africa today is leading the region in GDP. I know somebody's going to say, if you've just read the Moore Abraham governance report that came out, somebody's going to say, but there's some declining trends. Economic opportunity has declined, and therefore we're not responding sufficiently to improving the living conditions of people. But that's a wave where sometimes there are declines. But if you take the record as a trend, you'll find that Africa has progressed considerably. There are spots, no doubt, of those that not measured up. There are places where poverty has not been sufficiently addressed, and people have become either remain stagnant or in certain cases have become poor because of the conditions. But speaking generally, we know that even though in 2050, when the majority of world population are going to be Africans and they're going to be young, Africa is going to be the continent of the future.
If you have any question, just raise your hand.
sorry, you should all have a button next to your mics that say speak. So if you would just press that as you're asking a question, your mic should turn on. There we go.
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me? Thank you so much, Madam President. This summer I worked in Monrovia, and it was amazing. I completely was overwhelmed by your country and just how resilient and welcoming the people are there. I have two questions for you. One is that I worked on a project for mining concessions, and the project was about improving communications with the mining companies and the communities. And I know that when you were president, you put in some of these mining concession agreements in place, and that you were really helpful with a lot of the foreign direct investment. My question is just, do you believe that the mining and palm oil concessions agreements were put in place effectively, and what would you change if you could?
What we have done is to have changed things. You know, land rights, when you talk about the palm oil concession, on those concession agreements granted them large tracts of land, most times based upon negotiation with the center, with the central government, sometimes without the participation of the communities in which the land. We've changed that. So the Land Rights Act have passed now, and those now anything, although there's no retroactivity, but what it means now is anyone to get concessions have to negotiate with the local people, which have ownership. I think on the mining concessions, the biggest thing is to ensure that we remove the constraint for value addition. Because shipping out the iron ore or the coal or whatever it is, and not being able to get them into a finished product and get them, that's why I talk about industrialization. Those are the changes that are required and some changes that are underway.
I have a couple of concerns. And one is, you mentioned that the continent is, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. That the population is young in Africa. That is true. But it's also true that the young population is leaving the continent. And they're living in such conditions, and there are so much human rights violations. They're meeting so many obstacles on the road. For instance, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Libya, the black African be treated as more less than animals. They be subject to slavery in those countries because they try to migrate to Europe. So that means that the opportunity for the young people is not there. Even though they have the education, they have to leave because they want better life outside the continent. And that doesn't look good. All the population is young, they need a job. They need somewhere where to learn, to have a career. If they don't have that, the young population, we're going to have the situation like Macron of France, when he went to Senegal, the statement that he made there, and with the one he made to when he went to Guinea, that we are going to run into a situation like this. My concern is this. In 1965, I was born in 1965. Nkrumah wrote a book to tell the world that Africa can develop if it starts developing other countries. So my question is, do you think Africa have the leadership to persuade all the continent, or the majority of the continent, that we need to unite, that they need to unite to have a balance of power in order to deal effectively with the industrial countries?
Well, you said a lot. Africa has the institutions that are promoting African unity. Whether we're dealing with the regional economic institution, like the Economic Commission of Africa, whether we're dealing with the African Union, whether we're dealing with all of the different something that's the base, and promoting regional trade, regional cooperation, regional integration are processes that are ongoing, whether you have SADC in South Africa or ECOWAS on the west side. We have all of those that are ongoing. The dream of Nkrumah, if that's what you're talking about, is still far away. To have full political unity, that was going to take some time to do that. When it comes to those who we continue to grow our economies, continue to be able to meet the social needs of the population, but there will always be people who are looking for other opportunities. And the number of people that you talk about migration are a small number of the people. And people always, over time, over history, have sought opportunities by crossing borders. But when it comes to free movement of people in Africa, majority of them bring a positive effect. You have the transfer of skills, the transfer of capital, the transfer of knowledge, and there's a greater number of people that move across. The migrants who go across seeking it will always be there. And what we need to do, and that's what we're trying to work on, how do you regulate it in such a way that they have the opportunity to move and will not suffer abuses and indecencies? And those processes are underway. We've been working on that from the African Union. We've been doing a global compact on migration that's going to be signed in Marrakech in December. And so, things are moving. There'll always be more that can be done. And we just have to continue to work harder. And it doesn't apply only to Africa.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. My name is Theo. I'm originally born in Liberia and from Ghana as well. Just talking about us young people, I think most of the times we're quick to be very cynical and just preach a lot of the negative things that's wrong with our respective countries. What I've seen just traveling around the world with other countries and populations, if you went to Italy and you asked them about a country, the first thing they're going to tell you that past out something that's bad. They're always preaching some of the great things. So my question to you is, for young people, for a lot of us who have been away from the continent for a while, wanting to make our way back, what is your advice to us going back to the continent and making sure that the change that we want to see in Africa, we are the engineer of those change?
My advice is you do just that. You have to go back. Nobody's going to build Ghana or Nigeria or Liberia or Kenya better than the citizens themselves. So, yes, you will be away because you want to gain more education, more knowledge, more technical skills. But those skills are needed back in your own country. And the responsibility for development, primary responsibility, rests on the citizens themselves. If you're not going to be willing to make a sacrifice to develop your country, why should anybody else?
I'm sorry, I'm going to take only 2 more questions. One here and one here.
Hi, Madam President. First of all, I'm an economics major, so I find your life to be and your achievements to be very inspiring to me. And I just wanted to ask, in your best opinion, what would you recommend the English population of Cameroon should do to get the world to respond to the genocide that is currently perpetrated against them by the Cameroonian government? Thank you.
Well, I think they have to continue to work for their inclusion. They have to find a way for their leaders to reach out for consolidating support from other African countries, the African Union, and all of those that can work with them, that can continue to hold consultations with the leadership of Cameroon. That's going to be a process that will just require time. I think the leadership, there will be leadership changes in Cameroon. The leadership changes, let's all hope, will bring a dynamic new leader that sees the value of unity, the value of reconciliation, to be able to put, until then, the young people can reach out to each other. Young people on the French side, young people on the English side, reaching together and bonding and being able to be the pressure point in the country might make a difference in trying to get the status quo, to begin to change. It's a tough battle, but one has to work it and work it without violence.
Last question.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for speaking to us today. You're truly inspirational. I'm originally from Nigeria, and I want to go back and do some gender rights work.
Good.
And so my question to you is, how can advocates in Africa promote gender equality principles within the cultural framework that is Africa? Without, pushing something that might backfire or lead to regression.
Nothing can backfire. You can push it. Yes, the culture that shows the difference, the inequalities, the inequities have always been there, but they're changing. They're changing, even for those that come from the areas where the culture is deep into their practice and into their value system. Even that is changing. I see rural women today taking leadership position, claiming it, and demanding it. I see Muslim women who normally are separated in places when they meet because the men meet one side and the other. That's changing. We brought some of them together and forced them to sit together. Maybe not in the mosque, but certainly in other places. And so, don't be deterred, by those cultural restrictions. Yes, they're there. I don't want to dismiss them. They're there. The stereotyping is there. But it's being addressed, it's being fought, and you gotta be a part of that to change it. You pledge? You pledge to be a part of the battle?
On your behalf, I would like to thank...
No, I'm gonna ask one question too. You can't get away with that.
Okay, go ahead.
Who's willing to tell me what effect social media will have on knowledge and intelligence?
Go ahead.
I don't think these work. But first of all, thank you so much for coming. You're incredible, and I really appreciated all the work you've done. I think it's going to it already has made our generation very complacent. It's made us more ignorant and less likely to challenge the norms. It is connecting us in a lot of ways, but I think that we don't seek independent sources anymore. It filters us into our own bubbles. Personally, I see it in the Middle East, but I really don't think it's as much of a help as it is going to be hindering our future, and I'd love to hear your perspective on that in terms of African nations, but at least for the Middle East, it's not a great thing.
Maybe somebody else has a different opinion?
Do you have a different opinion?
Can you hear me? I don't know if this is working.
It's working. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
working.
Yeah, I think that it's a tool, like anything else, and I think how we use it and who we advertise to is going to be helpful. because I think in the Middle East things did end up a certain way, but Arab Spring, that happened. So those kinds of things, and social media being able to reach people and really being a democratizing tool, I think that is going to be important, because I was recording parts of this speech, and I'm a Liberian, I'm very proud, so I have a lot of Liberians that follow me. So putting this on, they're going to say, wow, I had no idea she was here, and wow, I didn't know she had these thoughts or these ideas on some of these things. So it's going to be really important for people who I know, people who I've connected with, and people who care about Liberia, knowing that you're here. So this is a form of intimate knowledge that they won't be able to get anywhere else. So I think by putting this on social media and choosing who I share it with and providing the right messages and doing my work, doing my research, I'm a Columbia alum, so I went to a research institution, so I have to know that I came here for a reason. I'm going to use those skills the rest of my life to sort of decipher what it is that I'm disseminating and what I'm taking in, and to continue to be an independent thinker, no matter what tools become in fashion. That's not going to change sort of how I find and seek knowledge.
I think we have balanced responses. One expressing concern that social media will take away from database knowledge, analysis, and all of that, and thereby undermine. And another one that says, depending on how you use it, that technological skill that comes from it, if you use it properly, it enhances your own knowledge and your own ability and capacity to be able to meet the conditions. So there you are. The judge hasn't come out yet. These are the differences of opinion. That's why I asked the question, because it's being asked around, what are the effects of social media? Oh, is it good? Are we depending too much on it and not going back to basics in learning? But I think both views, both views are correct. They're just different. But I think at the end of the day, I think social media will always be there. We're not going to be able to move it. We're not going to be able to change it. So we just must know how we use it. And that's the end of the day, whether it's in the Middle East or whether it's in Africa, is how you use it. Make the best of it, but at the same time, ensure that it doesn't undermine the basic means of being able to make analytical work, being able to do database work, being able to do research that gives you really empirical-based knowledge, which is very important for the future.
It seems that according at least to scholars who are looking at questions like that it has opened a broader space for Africans, in particular for Africans outside of Africa. And what we have noticed these last 10 years is the positive effect of convincing the majority of Africans outside of Africa, young Africans, to return to Africa, because they have a better sense of the opportunities which exist on the continent. So today, probably one of the tension is the tension between what the continent is offering and the political and social conditions which are prevailing there. But overall, the importance of the social media is to provide very specific information and open up a conversation among Africans and young Africans in particular.
And before we close, let me recognize the presence of the wife of one of Africa's country stars, Ghana. What President Akufo-Addo has said is Ghana beyond aid. That's a strong call to Africa for self-reliance, self-sufficiency, and Ghana's on the right path. So I'm glad to see her here.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. Now I'm giving the floor to
Yes. To cake here, Kwakwa. Thank you. Madam President, we just wanted to take a moment. You're here joined by Columbia University undergraduate, graduate students. It is very rare for us to have an opportunity such as today to be able to speak to a leader so empowering and so influential such as yourself. So we'd like to take a moment to thank you all for coming here today and to give you a token of our appreciation. Thank you so much, Madame. If everyone would please join us in giving a round of applause.
The perennial gift from a university. And you're right, coffee cup.
Thank you so much for coming here today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, another round, please, for Madam President.
Please stay seated as Her Excellency exits, and you guys will leave soon. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.